It's largely predictable. You know, the problem is, the question is, what is unpredictable mostly is how many of us are really paying attention to the disruptions and to the that are happening either within our sector, globally, within the global capital market, within the global business space. How many of us are paying attention to some of these disruptions? Like I would say to people, Amazon did not, invent e-commerce, right? The concept of e-commerce has always been. Tesla did not, invent EVs. Definitely, they didn't invent electric vehicles, and neither did Netflix. If you look at the streaming today, you remember the days of box office. Some of you remember that blockbuster movies and all of that. So the idea is not new. The idea of streaming is not new, or it didn't start with Netflix. And artificial intelligence does not necessarily did not necessarily start with ChatGPT or OpenAI as we may know them. What had happened is that they had recognized patterns, you know, before markets now begin to recognize the inevitables. I remember, the days when internet became a thing. I remember some prophets, some pastors said it was a sign of end time. They had predicted that Jesus was coming within the next 5 years. It was a tool of the devil to cause, it was one of the 666 signs of the end time. Today, those pastors are on social media, on Instagram. Some of them are tap tap, share on TikTok and other social media platforms. Why? We have continued as a people to recognize patterns, and then we now become a part of the market that inevitably have to adapt to the pattern when they become material, right? I hope I'm making sense. So if you see what the Amazon, the Tesla, the Netflix, the OpenAI, and every other person that you think are champions of one innovation, one of the things they've done today, what they've done is to recognize patterns before market recognize inevitabilities. So my question to you is, what pattern are you recognizing in the field you are playing now before the market becomes inevitable? And trust me, that is not vision, right? That is even not foresight. That is not even, we can't call that luck, or can we? We can't call that luck. We can't call that vision, because you have a vision. Don't you have a vision? You have a vision for you to start your event planning business, right? So the question is, what pattern are we paying attention to before market begin is, before it becomes inevitable in the marketplace? So it's not vision, it's not foresight, it's not luck. That pattern, the act of pattern recognition is called altitude. That's why I love how, Mo, crafted or drafted the theme of this, section, oversight, recognizing some of the things, some of the patterns. So today, I just want to share with you patterns that are happening currently in the globalization, or in a highly globalized world. I mean, we're now talking about re-globalization, right? So you know, so recognizing that pattern it cannot be at the same pedestal where an average visionaire is thinking. Like I said, I'm not speaking to you as visionaire. I'm not speaking to you as people that have foresight. I'm speaking to you as people that must be, because I know that you have vision. That's why you're here. That's why you are doing something, one thing or the other that you're doing within your sector. What I'm saying is, you need to now, if you're going to build for long, you need to start identifying patterns within your industry, that it maybe a lot of people are not paying attention to. You know, so that brings me to the concept I want to share today, which I told you earlier. It is actually called the strategic altitude intelligence, right? I know a lot of us have a lot of intelligence. Our IQ is sharp. I'm sure if I engage Tony now, she's a very smart woman. Almost every person on this place, on this platform, has, I mean, if you do IQ, you do IQ test for you, you go that scale, you go break scale. You know, Some of us have solid emotional intelligence. Some of us have solid, in fact, our adaptability quotient is high. Some of us have very sharp spiritual intelligence. Some of us have wealth intelligence. You know, but today I just want to talk to us about strategic altitude intelligence, and and this is a disciplined ability to elevate your perspective, your thought pattern. You know, until invisible patterns, things that are not common to the eyes, become visible opportunities to you within the sector you play in, or maybe even outside of the sector you play in, right? So if you ask me what is strategic altitude intelligence, it is your ability as a visionary, as a builder, as a leader, as an emerging disruptor, as a disruptor already within your industry, is your disciplined, don't forget the word, disciplined ability to elevate your thoughts and your perspective until invisible patterns, things that are beyond that do not meet the normal eye, an average eye, becomes a very viable and visible opportunity, to you that even people can plug into. So it is not intelligence, it is not IQ, like I said, it is not talent, you know. Um, Altitude, this strategic altitude intelligence I'm talking about is an ability, is a practice that can be learned, right? Is a practice that can be learned. However, I understand that, as a builder, you are very occupied with building what is next. What can I do? How can I hit my target? How can I become this and that? And that is very understandable at every level possible. But if you're going to have an oversight as being, now Mo give me assignment to, now Mo give me assignment. So as Mo give me assignment, I had to do so. So if you're going to have an oversight, if you're going to do something, recognize the pattern where things are happening today or things are going to happen over the next 20 years, you need to actually sharpen your strategic altitude intelligence. Where you are thinking at a height, at an altitude that an average mind cannot conceive within your industry or outside of it. So if you're going through that, there are there are in the I don't like to use the word framework because people use framework a lot. All right, in my approach to helping you understand what strategic altitude intelligence is about, I will share with you four strategic levels, right? Four important levels. The ground level are those that are saying, "Oh, I need to meet this task. I need to finish this job. I need to hit this. I need to finish this particular task. I need to set my goals for the week. I need to set my goals for the month, for the year, and all of that. That's a ground level thinking, right? And there is the operational thinking, all right? So if you're thinking operational, I said for those of you that are building one business or the other, the level two is actually quite operational. And for operational thinking, the horizon is more or less you're planning per quarter, per year. You have a target for the year, you have a resolution, you have a business target, you have a financial target you want to meet at the end of the quarter. You have the number of clients you want to reach out to at the end of the year, and all of that. That is quite operational. So you are working with your team to say, hey, hi team, we need to do this to get this done. You need to talk to Mr. A to get that one done. You need to attend these events to meet so person so that we can unlock the next event, right? Which is critical. It is important for the sustainability of your business. Don't get me wrong, right? But what I've been asked to talk about today is actually oversight, right? And that is talking mainly about, seeing at an altitude that nobody, oversight. I mean, of course, it is. Yeah, you people are builders, you people are intelligent people, so I don't need to actually break that down. You understand what that means, Level three, I said level one is ground zero, where you're talking about just meeting, task, completing task. The level two is operational, majorly, of course, for every business person here. You're looking at considering really how do you meet your target, either quarterly, yearly, and all of that. Then the next one is strategic. And if you speak to coach here, I think two people said they are leadership coach. I think Mo and one of the amazing woman that I heard her voice, but I can't, really pick her name, now. Talk about strategic leadership. If you're talking about strategy, a lot of time you're talking about 5-year plan. I'm one of the consultants to. I'm a consultant, or I'm the lead consultant to one of the or the leading hospitality industry in Nigeria today. Make I not mention their name for NDA purpose, right? And earlier this year, every year we convene for a 5-year strategic plan, and they will always be number one in Nigeria. Think about number one, hotel or hospitality destination in Nigeria as far as even hospitality residential, MICE. I think I'm sure Tolu will be thinking which organization is he talking about because Tolu has done a lot of stuff, within events, So most of the time, Mo can also tell you, right? Don't let me digress. When you're talking about, you know, some of these organizations where you're consulting for them, you're doing strategic plans, strategic, strategy session. You're actually looking at, okay, how are we going to win the market over the next 5 years, right? And you know, are we going to win strategy over the next 5 years? Sorry, I got to be distracted. How are we going to win strategy over the next 5 years? So strategy is usually looking at 5 years, and of course, you break it down into milestones, operational milestones. Oh, at year one, we have gotten here. Year two, we've gotten here. Do we need to stream strategy? And like that. So the third one, the fourth level that I want to talk about in my own formula or approach of getting an oversight or be at that level is what I call civilization. Civilization is not opening, is not tearing eye. It's talking more about, asking yourself what will be relevant over the next 20 years. Where is the money flowing? How many of you know where money is flowing within your industry right now? Because there has been so much disruption to capital flow. All right. You know, so where is capital flowing to, right? What policies are changing the world, which I'm going to tell you a lot about now, okay? Which is, um, very important that I will be surprised if some of you do not even know some of these things, some of these policies that are moving the world. So what are these demographic adjustments or shiftings that are happening across the world today? What is even happening? Where is the future of work? Right? So if you at this level four that I call civilization, you will be amongst the people building what the future is going to use. You'll be among the people strategically designing the future that will be. I've listened to Kule a lot, and I'm sure you are not, you must be, I'm sure you might have said that you're saying, oh, okay, I see. I see why he's talking like this, right? He's clearly showing a lot, and I see some of his predictions for the future, and I'm impressed. I mean, it has brought me to this level, to this altitude of having an oversight within my industry. And that explains why I do what I do, which I'm going to tell you about. So, two things I'm going to tell you before I leave that is going to be a major takeaway is I'll tell you where capital is flowing, and I'll tell you the policies that are changing the world and some of the demographics so that we can be at this oversight level. So that as you go into this week, to approach your business, you're going to approach it differently and you start thinking differently. Your strategy meeting with your team tomorrow morning, Monday, must be different because you can't be thinking operational, you can't be thinking at the ground level, you can't be thinking even at strategic level. You need to actually start thinking at the altitude that is recognizing patterns, right? So, and truth is, the higher your altitude, the longer your time horizon, which I think I've shared. If you're on the ground, you're talking about, meeting task, maybe tomorrow. What can I do by the end of the week? If you are quite operational in your altitude, you are level two, you are really thinking maybe quarter, yearly, and all of that. And if you're thinking strategic, like I said, maybe 5 years. And if you are, you know, we are civilizational, forgive my English. I don't think that exists in your approach. You're looking 20 years. What will happen over the next 2 decades? So when people see you building now, when people see you organize something like this, and just very few persons are showing up, you already know what 20 years is going to look like. And in 20 years' time, you are the one controlling the crowd of the world in this space, and they're wondering what is happening. You are thinking, you have thought differently because you are civilizational in your approach to thinking. So like I say, tell people a lot of times the world is not there's no disruption going on in the world. There's just a reorganization happening, right? We talk about The world is being disrupted. There's just reorganization. All right. So what reorganization is going on? Capital is moving differently. Supply chain is there's a reordering or there's a relocation in supply chain. So where is the supply chain? What's happening? You know, what is the future of Africa? How is America going to continue to be the superpower? Or is what is have we do you understand the pattern of the emergence of China and the BRICS? Or what is the relevance of Africa in the future of global supply chain? All right, which I'm going to tell you about. What technology, like I tell people, AI is no longer a tool. Maybe as a last year, 2 years ago, you can mistake AI as a tool. It's now an infrastructure. The same way you see this bulb, the same way you see electricity, the same way you see internet, the same way you see everything you see today. AI is now an infrastructure if you consider it very well. And number three is talent. What's happening? Skills are no longer local. Skills are now global. I was telling a few friends of mine yesterday. The truth is, in the past, maybe if you see young Nigerians or young Africans making a lot of money, you might think they're doing Yahoo. But come on, in these days, what most of them are doing is they are building some very mad skills that are required globally, and organizations across the world are recruiting them. I have a 21-year-old young millionaire who is a cybersecurity expert and from Nigeria, consults for a lot of organizations in the US, including Tesla. At 25, he's in Abuja doing, I mean, right. Why? Because talent is now global. Skills are now very mobile globally from the comfort of your home. Um, you know, um, uh, Location is now becoming not a thing to talk about anymore because you can be here and be rendering service globally, right? And number three is that trust. Now institutions are losing credibility. Trust me, right? Brands are becoming very political, right? But communities are gaining this trust, right? Communities are gaining this trust, right? So, if you look at, like I said, you look at capital, if you look at supply chain, if you look at technology, if you look at talent, if you look at trust, you see that there's a lot of disruption happening globally. I'm saying that to say that opportunity now has a formula, which is, of course, don't forget I said pattern recognition, understanding timing, strategically positioning yourself, ruthless execution, and the courage to go on a pattern or to go on to follow a path that is uncommon. So the question is, what opportunity, what pattern are you recognizing? Um, and how ruthless are you in your execution? And of course, how courageous are you to take that very mad step that everybody's telling you, you know, um, don't. It's crazy. It's stupid. It's mad. No, you know. I don't want to go back to talk about, you know, Nokia. Talk about some of these. Mention their names. You know, I remember when Nokia was folding up, and the CEO at the time, I can't remember his name, granted an interview, and he said something that that stuck with me for life. He said, "We did nothing wrong, yet we lost." What did Nokia do wrong? Nothing, right? Nothing. But they lost. So the question is, who moved their cheese? Who did? Did they throw away their cheese? Did they stop reinventing themselves? Did they stop, forecasting into the future? Did they stop being civilizational in their approach to doing business? Which I think most of us do not want to avoid um, in our business. So we must understand that economy has moved from um, the visible economy, which is your products, services, physical assets, innovation, and transactions, to more of invisible economy. So asking yourself, you know, uh, I mean, invisible economy. I'm talking about what are the five things I've talked about: supply chains, trust, data, networks and communities, narrative and reputation, and of course, commanding attention, you know. And that's why I tell people all the time that if Africa competes on just product, services, and innovation, we're not going to win, you know. Are we ever going to become a wealthy nation if we don't begin to look at the invisible economy and the potential that we have as a continent? So it's important that um, if we're going to ever be at that level where we have an oversight, don't forget, I'm just still giving a bit of a preamble. It's important that you just understand a few of these things so that by the time I now begin to share with you some of the disruptions that are happening today globally and where the capital is moving, don't forget I said I'm going to share to you where is capital, where is money flowing to, what is happening, where is this grant, where is this money, right? We recently did $450 million in renewable energy in Nigeria, and people are wondering how did that happen. When I met with the minister, she practically was wondering, how did you people find this money? Is Africa is the next frontier for global trade. It is important that you know that and you sink that in if you're building something and if you're going to be ever be relevant in the future of this thing we are talking about, of this thing we are building, you know. So it is important that we build 5 important skills or 5 important habits, develop 5 important habits if we're going to ever be at the level where we have oversight within the space where we are playing in. So it is important that you study systems and not events, right? Study systems, not events. Oh, what's happening across the world? Where is this one happening here? Study systems, not events, right? It is also, like I said, extend your thinking horizon. Very important. Think decades, not quarter, not yearly, not 5 years. Think like 2 decades ahead. Think be civilizational in your thinking, in your planning. Be civilizational. Don't forget I talk about 4 levels of ground, operational, strategic, and civilizational, right? And as it is today, if you're going to ever have an oversight or play at a level, especially across the continent, don't forget, I'm getting there, I'm narrowing down already. It is important that you become multilingual. The days are gone where, oh, I speak English and that's it. If you are, I'm about to share the opportunity that is happening right now, okay? Be multilingual, not just language. All right. Not just language alone, but I'm talking about even you must understand business technology. You must understand global policies. That's language I'm talking about. You must understand global policies. You must understand the economics. Where is the shift? And you must begin to affiliate yourself with also cultures, business cultures, or culture of other, excuse me, or other regions and where things are happening globally. Then it is also important that you learn a second or third language, especially if you're going to do business across Africa. I'm going somewhere. I'm almost where I'm going. Go, 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 go. I'm just, doing preamble, it is important as well that I know a lot of you track information, you are tracking updates, you're tracking news. Uh, I want to put it to you that you need to actually start tracking patterns more than you are tracking information. It's very important that you track patterns. What is happening? Where is the global shift going to be? All right. You know, and very importantly, I remember when the idea of blockchain, cryptocurrency came to be, and when things began to happen within that, blockchain technology, a lot of people felt like, nah, what's going to happen? So one very important habit or strategy that you must imbibe in this time is actually to be, to position before certainty. It's very important that you pivot before you are sure. If you, I mean, if especially if you are thinking at that altitude of pattern recognition, right? Before crowd gets to it within your sector, before crowd, when it's become crowded, the billionaires had already been made. You are already too late to the party. So you understand that within your sector today, you begin to understand patterns and uh, and align yourself with it and position early for it within the sector where you're playing. So that brings me to the meat of the conversation. Go, 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 go. You see, African businesses, Africans generally, I'm sure if I had come in today to say that, hey, hello, everyone. There's opportunity to jackpot and leave the country. Are you ready to go with me? Let's go. And you have the opportunity to do your business where you are. You'll be able to expand and meet, nice markets where you are. I know a lot of people are going to leave. One of the patterns, one of the things I've observed over the past decade on the continent is the fact that as we are leaving, the world is coming to Africa. So the question then is, what is happening? Why is Africa attracting more foreign direct investment than most regions now? Why are countries suddenly building bilateral relationships and having bilateral agreements with Nigeria and with other African countries in this time? What are they seeing? What pattern have they recognized? What are they seeing on the continent that has made them to take so much interest in Africa? Let me tell you about your Africa, the one that you don't know, or maybe you don't pay attention to enough. And that's why I keep saying that we cannot do the commodity game. We cannot do the commodity game. Africa cannot continue to, we export goods, we export commodity, we export oil. We cannot do that. And that's why I founded the Club of Emerging Leaders for Africa, so that people who are going to govern this continent over the next decade or two have an understanding of the global movement of the policy shift around the world, the movement of capital around the world, and what the world is seeking, so that when they get to the opportunity to lead their communities or to lead their countries, they know exactly the negotiation they should be having within the room. It is critical that we begin to understand and align ourselves with some of these thoughts as people who are rising as reformers or top performers within our sector. Africa is home to 31% of global mineral deposit. Process that for a minute. This continent is home to 31% of global mineral deposit. Think about that again for a second. I talked about where capital is flowing, supply chain. I talked about talent. A lot of us are not aware. Are you aware that I remember I talked to you about, demographic shift. When I was talking about be civilizational in your thoughts, in patterns to follow. What policy is shifting? What demographic shifting are we having globally today? Are you aware that 7 out of 8 youngest countries in the world are African countries? That tells you that Africa is the talent hub of the world today. And by 2050, it's going to be crazier because 1 out of every 4 humans on the surface of the earth will be Africans. And they'll be younger than the age of 20. So that tells you if you're a strategy person, if you are a leadership person, if you are a talent person, that tells you that the time to invest in talent and to start recruiting talent and putting them in pipelines or setting up talent development. There are companies today that are recruiting talent in Africa, sourcing, training, empowering talent in Africa for global markets today, as it were, because as the world is aging, Africa is getting younger. So the demographic shift is coming to Africa because 65% of our population are younger than 25. It's massive. So imagine if we have 65% of our population, all right, younger than 35, all right, younger than 25, and we are home to 31% of global mineral resources. Imagine we're able to match our human capital with our mineral resources. We'll be creating global and transgenerational wealth for the continent, so that the Agenda 2063 of the African Union of a peaceful, inclusive, prosperous Africa driven by Africans, don't take for granted. Don't forget that driven by Africans will become possible and easier and faster to realize. So the question is, in your industry, what shifts are happening within the continent? If I take a poll in this group, in this room right now, how many of you are aware of some of the data I've given? Africa is home to 1.4 billion people with a cumulative GDP of $3.4 trillion. And by 2030, we project, or 2030 to 2035, we project to double that so we can have a $7 trillion economy. as a continent of 1.4 billion people. How many of you are aware that there is a policy that has been operational, negotiated since 2018, but became operational January 6, 2021, that connects this 1.4 billion people and make them a single market, which is what we call the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA. How many of you have read about AFCFTA? How many of you are even aware of the opportunities that exist with AFCFTA? How many of you now understand how to trade under the AFCFTA or leverage the opportunities within the sector where you are playing, leveraging the African Continental Free Trade Area? The AFCFTA is the largest market in the world, is the largest trade area agreement in the world by participating country. 54 countries agreeing to be a single market. So how are you positioning yourself, your business within your sector to be regional? So you can be local in your current operations, but in your thought and in your pattern and in your plan, you must be civilizational so that you're thinking decades ahead and how you're going to leverage the single market of Africa and to capture a percentage of the 1.4 billion people that has opened border to do business with each other, leveraging technology. Am I making sense to you? So, if you're asking, why is capital flowing to Africa? That is it. You know why? We are not recognizing this pattern. We are not paying attention to this flow. We are not paying attention to these policies. We are not paying attention to these shifts. But the global market is paying attention to it. That's why Americans are buying properties in Nigeria and they have never visited Nigeria before. Some of them have visited Nigeria too. I mean, I have an American friend who has been begging me to marry her since, because she wants to have a Nigerian passport. She's desperate for it. She says, David, please marry me. We don't have to live with me. Just let's marry. I know there is Nigerian wife. Give me Nigerian passport. In exchange, I will give you an American passport. I'm not looking for a second citizenship. She just wants to be a Nigerian. Why? She has identified the opportunity of being an African. And she wants to position herself for it. I know a lot of you know Cindy Train. Have you read about Cindy Train? All right, the American preacher and strategist. She owns hectares of land across several countries on the continent of Africa. Why? She has foreseen the global shift in the shift in global frontier for commerce, for trade, for talent, for opportunities. And Africa is waking up gradually. But guess what is happening to us? We that are Africans are supposed to be drivers of so many opportunities. We are jackpotting. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. It's okay to see what the world is doing. But of course, you cannot abandon the assignment. Don't let me go personal, right? Let me share personal stories, all right? Let me stay the course. To understand that as top performers, as people who are going to build something that will last, we cannot be paying attention to just updates we see online. We need to actually pay attention to pattern recognition. And that is what will give you the oversight of what is happening today globally. The moment I became the vice president of the World Trade Center in Lagos, we're currently on a project, actually. We're putting together, we have a $40 million capital for critical sectors of the economy in Nigeria. And that $40 million was gathered or is being put together. It is called the Homeland Capital. It's being put together by Nigerians in diaspora or Africans in diaspora. And what are we trying to do? We're trying to mobilize diaspora funds for economic development in Africa. They are not grants, right? They are equity, they are debt financing, and of course, some blended financing. And we're looking at critical sectors to invest into. Of course, we're looking at the creative sector, we're looking at fashion, we're looking at agriculture, majorly, because those are the things we have identified as the future of the continent. That's the future oil of the continent, right? And then that's not the story I wanted to share. So the moment I became the vice president of the World Trade Center, and of course, I declared that we're building Africa's largest expo center, like we have in Dubai. All right. Yeah, the World Trade Center Dubai. If some of you that have traveled, if you've been to World Trade Center Dubai, you see it's one of the largest exhibition centers in the world, right? So we're trying to do the same thing in Nigeria. And guess what? The day I announced that within the network, three companies approached me for investment. I almost mentioned their name. It's an Indian company, their infrastructure development fund, a company. And guess how much they were offering? They were offering $2 billion investment to build Lagos's largest exhibition center on the continent of Africa. $2 billion. Why? They recognize the opportunities. They see the aftermarket and they see the role Nigeria is going to play in it. For those of you that are not even aware of the AFCFTA, take this week to study it or go online now. Go and register for the Digital Trade Forum that is happening 1st and 2nd of July. It's happening in Nigeria. Thank God. You don't need to travel. It's happening in Lagos, National Theatre. Go and register for it. So you can have an understanding of the digital trade, initiative and protocol of the African Continental Free Trade Area. And guess what? The entire continent will be attending. So if the world is shifting to Africa, if Africa has become a single market, if there are 1.4 billion people, and you are serious about building a business that will last, and a business that will thrive, and a business that will transcend beyond borders, you attend such events to make friends across the continent within the sector you are doing. You will go on LinkedIn and start making friends with Africans who are in your sector that you can collaborate with, whether in fashion, whether in legal business, whether you are in event planning. You need to actually start doing things that are regional by building relationships. You're not going to spend money. It's a free event to attend. All you need to do is just get yourself there. Print your business card, start meeting people, and start redesigning your program, your products, your services, and start seeing how you can tap into the invisible economy to building a business that will outlast you, and to seeing how you can attract the kind of money, the kind of investment, the kind of partnership, the kind of global opportunities that are available within your sector, leveraging what is happening on the continent. I know I was given 20 minutes to talk. I know I've stretched a bit, but I will pause here, take questions and answers. What I want to tell you is this. See, every generation is being handed a map. Every generation is being handed a map. This is how to do it. That's why you see that there are a lot of strategy, the 5 ways to become, 5 ways to Kiniko. Most of us here are millennials. The Gen Z are inheriting another map now. I don't know what map. Their map is directionless, but don't let us talk about it. I don't want to talk about before Gen Zs will come for me, right? Every generation is being given a map. But guess what extraordinary people will do? They will redraw it. And one of the things we need to do is that we must redraw this map within your sector. Auntie Funke Bokno today, Tolu can relate with that, I believe. Auntie Funke Bokno she's the champion, or she's the, how do we call it? She's the mother of the modern day event planning. Huh? Yeah, I think I'm correct. She's the mother of modern day event planning. What did she do differently? She just recognized a pattern and she began to redefine it. Look at her today. A lot of people that are doing well in the invest space are either proteges, or they've learned from her, or they've worked with her, or they've done something to her, or with her, and everything. And everything revolves around her. Everything revolves around her within the event space. I don't know if Tolu can correct me. Though things are shifting gradually, but the truth is, So my final question to you today, like I said, every generation inherits a map, but because we're extraordinary and we have an oversight, we understand how to recognize pattern. We're going to redraw that map. But the question is, at what altitude are you thinking within your sector? So I'll pause there, take questions or recognitions or feedback, and of course we can move on from there. Thank you very much, Mo.
My goodness. This has been mind shifting. And I don't know how many of us feel the same way. Can we just give a show of emoji to just express how you feel about this short presentation? I call it short because I know there's still a lot more that David, can share, but because of his constraint with time, David, I want to thank you because this was the reason why we designed this learning session. When we were restructuring the community learning development idea, I thought to myself, it's time we began to have webinars that really target gaps that entrepreneurs are really struggling with. And that's why I said I needed to bring experts who are in a position where they can really share not just what they've read, but what they are truly handling. And and you're a testament to that. I mean, all you have said, it's really vital for us as a conversation to have right now. And I think one of the things you highlighted, even though you didn't really title it in that way, was that we have been limited by conditioning. I have noticed a trend with entrepreneurs, small business owners in Nigeria. The moment we begin to pursue a venture, we always limit our thinking to Nigeria. We have never really seen ourselves as African players. Many businesses are just limited to what they can really provide within the Nigerian context. And you're really opening our eyes and say that, listen, there is a bigger picture. There is a bigger picture. And I really can't really place it, but I don't know what has really conditioned us. I mean, it's a mindset thing, it's a cultural thing. And because you have, been exposed, you are able to see further and you're able to give us this great data. So I want to say a very big thank you. And I don't know how many of us have questions because, things like this, I don't know why the room is not filled with 50, 60 people. But we have recorded this session, and I believe that we are going to find a way to get this across to people. David, I wanted to ask you, do you have any material that you can share for free that we can put on our website that people can really at least get a few of these nuggets that you share with us? Do you have any?